Okay, next let's talk about one of the Korean chess's most controversial rules. Supposed to be simple, but now controversial. It's called the Bikjang rule, or loosely translated, it's called the Laughing Generals. What's that? It's a situation where the generals are facing each other on the same file without any intervening piece between them. Meaning there's no pawn here, no pawn there, nothing between here. Okay, so for example, let's just create a new game. If ever someone moves here and moves there, this is called a Bikjang, or Laughing Generals. The player who caused this to happen, for example, red, he moved his soldier out of the way so that the generals are laughing at each other. He's trying to declare a draw. That's one of the basic rules. The player who declares Bikjang is trying to draw the game. Okay. Next basic rule is that the Bikjang overrides any checks or checkmates. Meaning, for example, let's just use this as a situation. Now, the general can't move here, 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 only on this file, and the cannon can move backwards, so it's attacking the red general. It's green's move, but the problem here is that it's red's move, and he gets to choose whether to move here and get captured by the cannon or accept the Bikjang. How does he do that? It's by using his general to capture, quote unquote, capture his opponent's general. That's called accepting the Bikjang, or accepting the draw offer. So that means, in this case, when red moved back his cannon, he is declaring a draw and at the same time attacking it. Of course, red doesn't like to lose this one, so he's just going to accept the draw, and there we go. Well, maybe red wants to move here, or advisor here, advisor there. Kinda loose rules. They're allowed, so green gets to take it. Green gets to take the red general and win the game. But when it comes to real rules, it's called a draw. Okay. Now, for the controversial ones, I will categorize these things into two. The first one is the traditional rules, and the second is the tournament rules. And under the traditional rules, there are two sub rules about that. First is the casual. The next is the confusing ones, the real confusing ones, because you can just look at the tutorials, the very old tutorials, English Janggi tutorials. There are no real standards about the Bikjang. You will observe that. Trust me. Okay, the casual rule, just like what we did before. Okay, new game. When you're trying to play, someone declares a Bikjang to you, just move the general out of the way. Otherwise, see that? Move the general or block it. Okay, you have three choices, or four maybe. Move your general away, block the Bikjang, resign, which is also possible. At first, I didn't know. Usually, the guy who tries to declare a draw is the one who is inferior in position. But there are times. Well, there's one time that I have seen that the guy who's been declaring the Bikjang is the player with better points. So that means he's relying on the pointing system just to win, forcing a draw by position but a win on the score. Okay, so resigning as a player who is receiving the Bikjang, possible. Okay, so move, block, or resign, and even accept the draw offer. He can capture a draw, but someone has to win by the pointing system. No, this is casual. You can draw by position and draw by the game itself. Okay, that's a simple rule. Next is the confusing rule, because Rick Knowlton in Ancient Chess said that if you're trying to quote-unquote checkmate your opposing general, which is supported by your general, that is not a mate. Of course it's not a mate because Bikjang is allowed. This is not Chinese chess where generals aren't supposed to Bikjang is illegal in Chinese chess. Chinese generals don't like each other. Korean generals, they can laugh at each other. That's just the summary of it. Rick Knowlton said that this does not count, this is a draw. Well, considering the position right here right now, it will be a draw, or it is a draw, just because there is no sufficient mating material. But positionally speaking, you can continue the play for as long as you want. It's not an automatic draw for me. But according to him, when it comes to this instance, that's a draw. But I think he's quoting from a source that uses this example instead. Okay, so we will just evaluate the position. Okay, there are soldiers right here threatening to capture the general, a checkmate. Let's just use the term checkmate. And Green has no way of stopping that. He has no way of stopping the checkmate except by doing this. Okay, using the chariot as a quote-unquote mating net, forcing red to take the chariot, and then green gets to accept the draw, and the casual game ends with a draw. But by this situation, red wins anyway. Okay, so he avoided the mate, but didn't actually avoid the scoring disadvantage. So I think that was the source that he was quoting. It had a position similar to this, but that's what it only meant. Second confusing rule is that whoever tries to declare, or whoever declares a Bikjang, loses all his rights of mating, or winning. Actually, that's called winning. So what do I mean? So let's just assume that if green passed his turn and red declares a Bikjang and cannot escape or blocked it, and then goes checkmate, it's not a win for red, it's called a draw. He lost the right to win because he declared Bikjang first. He's the one who declared it, so even if he mates his opponent, it's called a draw. Casual, confusing rule. Tournament rules, that doesn't apply. Whoever declares Bikjang doesn't matter. Even if he gets to mate his opponent, he still wins. It's green's fault for not accepting Bikjang if that was the case in here. Okay, I think okay, so I guess that's it. Those are the two confusing rules. And now we get to the tournament or competitive play. In competitive play, okay, yes, this is the example. Tournament play, you will treat the generals as if they are Chinese chess generals, meaning you cannot declare Bikjang unless both players have their piece points. If you count their piece points, their total is less than 30, not counting the bonus that red had. Okay, so if red has 30.5 points, he can declare Bikjang. That is assuming that green has also 30 points or less than 30 points, right? So in this case, if ever green tries to do this, since red's points are above 30 points, this is called a checkmate. Or maybe red is forced to resign because, tournament rules or competitive rules states that if a player tries to take this, not only does he lose the game, okay, so 34 points for red, not allowed to Bikjang. If ever you do this, not only do you lose the game, you are disqualified from the tournament. So even though this is technically allowed, Korean standard rules are actually much more brutal than Chinese chess rules when it comes to this. Because in Chinese chess, it's naturally illegal. You will lose the game. On Korean tournament, Janggi, you lose the tournament. Not only do you lose the game, you lose the tournament. So when it comes to this position, you can take that, it's your move, but you just actually step out of your fortress, denoting that you want to resign instead. Resigning and losing, unless you want to get out of the tournament by itself, disqualify yourself, fine. But that's the Janggi tournament rules. Okay, so until you get your points less than 30, with not counting the bonus, Bikjang isn't allowed. That means even if you have a material advantage against your opponent, you still need to look out for your enemy's mating moves. He can counterattack you, which makes it tournament interesting. Casual games, I think it's much more interesting too when you can actually declare a draw from your opponent's advantageous position. It depends on your view. But these are the Bikjang rules, Janggi, and if ever there are more rules that I can think about, I think I'm going to make a video about them. But I think after this, I am going to analyze some games or something as a new player or as a guy who is new to this thing. But until then, see you guys next time.